Hello recruits and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. This is Colin and we're going to start our solo playthrough of Renegade. One thing I wanted to mention before we jump in. I had mentioned that you could not use a rootkit for installing. That's wrong. You see here you can use a rootkit for any single type of contaminant when doing the installation action. Dang, I hate when I miss that stuff. So that makes it even more versatile than I thought. I love it. I also talked about playing with one variant, and I didn't explain what variant it was. So the one we're going to play with is called the D-Ice, or the D-Intrusion Countermeasure Electronics mode. So what we're going to do is, instead of using just this basic black infection dye, depending upon which countermeasure we're in, if we're in the bronze or the copper countermeasure, we're going to use this dye. The silver one will use this dye, and the gold will use this dye. And the gold dye has higher numbers on it, so essentially the sparks or the guardians are going to get stronger because they're more likely to roll higher numbers, and they're going to be harder to beat. Yeah, I like to punish myself, so we'll see if because of this I lose. But don't worry, the first round we're going to play with this nice and easy one that at least has 2s on it, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s. But there is no 1. You see how there's no 1? So, yeah. To start our gameplay, we've already done the intel phase. We've already learned how we're going to complete this countermeasure. So now we start with the command phase. We'll start with the start of turn step. Generally, there are certain things that might happen during this step, but at the beginning, nothing, so we're good. Then we'd restock the Hack Shack, but we haven't used any cards there yet. Next, we move to the new Spark step. Once again, in the first round, in that first countermeasure, you will not place new sparks. So we get a little bit of a break. After that, though, we're going to be placing sparks each round. Then we go to my favorite phase, the command actions phase. One of the first things I suggest you do when you begin your command phase is look at the Hack Shack. See if there's anything here you want to buy. Now, how you know how much something costs is you have to look in this upper right-hand corner, and this tells you what type of command you have to use in order to purchase this card. We need to use some cognition in order to obtain this digital tattoo. I have a Black Hat card. This Black Hat card provides leadership. Leadership is wild. You can choose it to be any type of command that you want. So I'm going to choose this to be a green uplink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this digital tattoo, and this goes straight to my hand. Then this Black Hat card I'm going to flip over and leave right here. I lost a card to gain a card. My deck will never be larger than 15 cards. If I spend 2 or 3 cards to buy on one of these cards, I have to lose 1 card from my hand, and then the rest of the cards that I use to pay for it will go into the discard pile. Now there are 2 cards down here in the Hack Shack, and I want to mention something. This Christmas tree card does not come in the base game. It comes in one of the booster packs. I just want you to know that, so if you buy a copy and you don't see this card, that's why. I honestly don't know all the cards that came in the booster packs. I just threw it all together. But there are different cards in here that you might see that you might not see if you just have the base game. The card over here that I'm eyeing is this Microbionics. It gives us 3 leadership, but it also has this or execute. We can delete 1 spark from your partition and every partition adjacent to yours. Think of how powerful that's going to be. And if I get that in this first round, that will allow me to use that card 3 times. That would be sweet. I'm going to pay for this card by using Digital Tattoo. This gives me 1 green uplink, but also when this card is used as part of a shop action, it also generates 1 leadership. Since I'm shopping for this card, I am now having 1 uplink and 1, I'll call it deception, I think. So I have 1 green and 1 yellow. And then I'm going to play data scan, and that's going to give me 1 information and then 1 destruction. I have enough. I will be able to obtain this Microbionics card. It'll go to my hand. I'm going to lose this digital tattoo card. Okay, it's gone. I want to keep data scan, but I have to discard it because I've used the command actions on this card. So I'll put this in the discard pile. Here's our hand for the rest of the round. So you can see I only lost 1 card essentially when I did my upgrades, but my deck immediately upgrades as you play this. I love it. I love this so much. It's so fun to see your deck instantly upgrade. So I think the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do an upload action. I have a total of 3 destruction commands here. As long as I have 3 of a command, that is all of the same type and I'm in a location with no sparks or guardians, I can upload contaminants. So I'm going to go ahead and upload a virus. I'll take my virus contaminant and place it here on the same partition that I'm on. Now, I had some feedback that it was hard to see where I was when I was using the standee, so I'm going to play with Rupert sideways like this so you know where I am. That virus contaminant will help us fight sparks and guardians in later rounds, so I'm glad to have it even if I'm not needing it right now. Our next action, I think I'm going to use the microbionics, but I'm going to use the execute. I could use the 3 leadership here to maybe upload a different contaminant. Heck, I could do that for any type of contaminant I wanted because 3 leadership gives me 3 of any type of command. But instead, I'm going to delete from our partition 1 spark. Now, our partition doesn't have a spark, but all adjacent partitions, we also get to delete 1 spark. Yeah, so I'll put this in the discard pile and activate it. We essentially just dropped a spark bomb here and took out 3 sparks with 1 card. I still have 1 card in my hand and I can carry over 1 card to the next round. So I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to end my turn and draw up to 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We've now just completed the replenish hand step. We go to the end of turn step. Certain SMCs or certain countermeasures might have something that happens at the end of turn step. Right now we don't have anything, so we'll repeat. Go back to start of turn, nothing there. So now let's go and restock the Hack Shack and now place some new sparks. We have 2 empty spaces in the Hack Shack, so we'll replenish them with 2 cards like so. To place sparks, you're going to roll 2 different dice. One will be called the server die. This is going to determine where on the server this spark is going to be placed. This die is the partition die. It'll let us know which partition we're going to place the spark. But don't forget the Viking's ability. If it's adjacent to a location that has a spark and you're replacing it in a location with no sparks, it's going to move to that adjacent location. So let's pick them up and give them a roll. And we have blue 2. So normally we would simply place this spark in partition 2. But because there are sparks in adjacent partitions, it's going to move to one of these. Now, if there are 2 different locations like this, you always look for the highest number. The highest number is this 3, so it's going to move here. You can see the Viking is going to clump together their sparks, trying to create those guardians. Because once there are 3 sparks in one location, we're going to have a guardian. And now if you think of it, if we roll a blue 4, 6, or 2, they're all going to move in to here and create a guardian. Moving to the command phase, we're going to have a little fun shopping here. First thing, we're going to use another black hat to grab this adrenaline surge. So the adrenaline surge will go to our hand and we'll lose the black hat. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use this diversion card and purchase the dancing pig. Since, although we're overpaying, we're still getting 2 of the yellow commands, but we also get an execute ability. So I think it's worth it. Then because I really like this Christmas tree versatility, I'm going to play Sabotage and Trickery Master, and these 2 random leaderships or wild leaderships are going to be either Destruction or Cognition, so that will allow us to purchase the Christmas tree. Now, I don't want to lose either of these cards, so what I'm actually going to do is not even use this, but I'm going to lose this interrupt, because then that way, although I discard these cards, I keep the leadership for the next 2 rounds, because I really like having that wild. It just gives you more options and you can do more things with it. So we know from our copper objective card that we are trying to have 1 or more uplinks in at least 2 different partitions on each Renegade's home server. So I need to get some uplinks onto the network. How we're going to upload those uplinks is by playing 3 of the cognition commands here. So I've got 3 here. I'm just wasting this leadership. I can't save it and use it for something else, even though I have it, because when I play that card, I have to use it for 1 action and then I have to discard it. But we also have an ability here. When this card is used as part of an upload action, you may upload 1 additional contaminant of that type to that partition. So we just uploaded 2 uplinks. We'll place 2 green uplinks here on partition 6. Yeah, we are really filling up this partition. For our next action, we're going to use our dancing pig, but instead of using the yellow deception here, we're going to use the execute. Instead, have one contaminant on your server swap partitions with one spark on your server. I need to have uplinks on two different partitions, so I'm going to have these two swap locations. Now I've completed my objective, but don't forget, I got to get rid of that spark. Otherwise, after our third turn, this virus and this spark will fight each other, and if my virus loses, I lose all contaminants in this partition. That was a pretty good turn too, I think, but I think it's hilarious how I haven't even moved Rupert on the network at all. So this final turn, we'll just draw the rest of our cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because there's only 3 rounds, and then we go in to see if we have completed our countermeasure. We have nothing we need to do for the end step and the start step of our third round, so we'll go right into replenishing the Hack Shack. And we have an EMP, and that's awesome. We have a self-modifying inhibitor, and we have iteration. Oh, Monica really used iteration in our last playthrough really well, because what it does, you can reveal this during your turn along with another card in your hand to perform that card's execute event. Sweet. Now let's roll for sparks. And we have a yellow and a 5. We'll place the spark here. Since there's already a spark here, this one will not move. We just have our second spark on partition 5. Well, iteration is tempting me too much, you guys. I gotta go with it. I'm gonna have 3 of the most powerful cards in my deck for the next round. That's gotta help me, right? And I'll have tons of leadership, so I'm hoping that'll be really helpful in the long run. I'm going to play Christmas Tree, and I'm going to use the 3 leadership here. 1 is destruction, 1 is deception, and 1 is information. And then I'll play bypass, and I'm going to lose bypass, and then gain iteration into my hand. And then I have to discard Christmas Tree. Unfortunately for this round, I don't have any other cards that have an execute ability in my hand, so I'm really banking on this coming into my hand at a very much more helpful time next round, but for now, I'm just going to use the 3 leadership here as destruction, and we're going to do an infect action. We're going to try and infect this spark. How this works is we count up the amount of viruses that we have on this partition. Well, I have 1 here, and I'm going to have my rootkit act as a virus. So I have 2 viruses to 1 spark. We then add the 3 destruction commands that I just played as the leadership. So I have a total of 1, 2, plus 3 is 5. So my number is 5, and the spark's number is 1. We'll then roll the red die for us and this copper die for the spark, and we'll add these numbers to the 5 and the 1 respectively. And as long as our number is greater than the spark's number, we delete all the sparks on that partition. If our number is equal to or less than the sparks number, we lose 1 virus. 5 to 1 odds, I feel pretty good. We rolled a 3, so we're at 8. He rolled a 4, so he's 4 to 1 to 5. We just deleted this spark. See ya. Our next action that we're going to take is play the focus card, and we are going to do a shift action. And we can do 2 since we have 2 of our cognition commands. Uplinks are one of the most versatile contaminants. The reason being, if you're in a location with an uplink, you can pretend or ghost yourself to anywhere else there is an uplink or what that installation is, the neural hub. And so that allows you to do actions in locations where you're not at. And that's really, really helpful when playing solo because you have a huge network and you're only 1 renegade. So I have an uplink here. My first action or my first shift is I'm going to push this uplink over here. Why I'm doing that is because I want my uplinks to be farther apart, because if they are, I can then ghost actions to locations that are farther away. The second of our shift actions, we're going to shift this destruction over here. And of course, I called it a destruction, but this is actually a virus. It's a destruction command when you activate it. Next, we're going to play our data steal card. This is information. We can use information to move across the network. Since I have 1 information, I could, if I wanted, to move freely between all of these connected data nodes, okay, as long as I have 1 information. But what I'm going to do is I am going to pick up this rootkit, and then I'm going to take 1 step over here to this partition 1 and drop it here. Because what I'm planning on doing is trying to take out this spark. We're going to clear out Faith. Hey, it's my home partition. I want it clean. We're going to do another infect action using the black hat, and we're going to use this as if it was a destruction command. So right now we have one virus plus our rootkit, which is 2, and then this destruction command for 3 to the 1 of the spark that's there. We'll give our dice a roll, and we rolled a 2 to a 3. So we were at 3 to 1, so 3, 4, 5 to 4. It was close, but we did delete that spark. We're then going to finish up this round by playing decrypt, and we have 2 more information, so we can move up to 2 more times. I'm going to pick up my rootkit. Now, I would love to pick up this virus, but I can't. You can only hold 1 type of contaminant, and I can hold up to 3 of that 1 type minus the rootkits. I can only ever carry 1 at a time. So I will take 1 movement here and the second movement to here. Now, it would be awesome if I could now move through the data nodes freely, but since I use my second information to get onto this partition, I can't move anymore. I'm done. We've now done our command phase 3 times. We now move to the countermeasure phase. So we look to see we have our revenge step. First of all, if there are any viruses in the same location as sparks, they would now fight. And we would just roll dice and then compare the numbers. And if the viruses won, great. They would take out the sparks, but if the sparks won, they would delete the viruses. For us, we don't have any viruses in a location with sparks, so we can move past this. Now we have the delete contaminants segment. If there's any contaminants in a location with sparks or with guardians, they're automatically deleted. So far, so good. I'm all right. And yeah, I just jumped into the installations. We'd also would delete installations as well if there was a guardian in a location with an installation. Now we're going to see if we have succeeded or failed our countermeasure. Do we have 1 or more uplinks on at least 2 different partitions in each Renegade's home server? Here is our home server. We have an uplink here in partition 3 and an uplink here in partition 5. We have just gained 25 victory points. So I'll place this on the side to note, hey, I completed the copper objective. Now we're going to flip this over and we look for the success side and we read what it says. Add 1 neurohub anywhere on the network. Experience is your best navigator. As my first Renegade mentor taught us, insight comes from applying your hindsight as foresight. Whoa, that must have come from Rupert. Especially because I don't even know what that means. One thing I forgot to do, I forgot to place my rootkit back here on partition 4 of Faith. I was holding on to it. I needed to place it down at the end of my movement with my information. There's a lot of great places we could put a neurohub. I'm thinking of placing it here. The reason being, when you have a neurohub, if you're at that location, you can ghost yourself as if you were anywhere on that partition, which is awesome. And so what we could do is if we were here, we could maybe get some viruses over here just by standing here and take these 2 sparks out without ever having to move on to the rest of this server. So, and I like it being on our data node line, so it's easy to get to. Next, we're going to move to the Move Sparks step, and we look at this part of the card here, the countermeasure, to know where we move the sparks. If the arrow, like you see here for the green one, is pointing up, move each spark token located on the lowest numbered partition that contains a spark to the next higher numbered partition. If the arrow is pointing down, like you see here on the Justice or Blue server, move each spark token located on the highest number partition that contains sparks to the next lower number partition. So the sparks in the highest numbered partition on Blue or Justice is 3, so they'll move down to 2. For our green server, we will move our 1 in partition 1 to partition 2. For our yellow partition, we'll move from 5 down to 4. And then our red or salvation partition will move from 1 to 2. Technically, after the move sparks, you're supposed to score. Well, I already did the scoring, sorry. And then we move to the refresh phase. We're not at end of game, so we skip that. We now will shuffle up our deck and draw 5 new cards. Then we'll purge the Hack Shack and draw 4 new cards. Here's our deck of 15 cards. We'll start with Renegade Apprentice, Trickery Master, we have Infiltrate, we have Focus, and we have Memory Steal. Of course, all of our basics. What we do now with the Hack Shack is we purge the entire thing. We remove all the cards. What's nice about that is if ever you have a card on there that you just can't buy or you just don't want to buy, you don't have to worry. They're all going to go away and you'll get new ones in the next round. So we've got Knight on Ship, replicant jar. We'll have ginger cool, I like that one, and the Pied Piper. Let's do the intel phase as well as going all the way to the new spark step, and then maybe I'll have you guys give me an idea of what you think I should do after we see where sparks are placed. Our next countermeasure will be Dreams of Salvation, and I can't believe this. Have one neural hub per Renegade on Salvation. I literally was one space away from putting it on Salvation, but no, instead I placed it on Virtue, and so now I have to build another neural hub. Come on! Oh, wait a second. It says here, or a partition adjacent to Salvation. I think I did that. I think I already did that. Dreams of Salvation this cycle. When rolling for sparks, and what this means is this icon on the die, when you roll that, instead of it being my server, which is Faith, it's going to be the Salvation server. So it just means more likely we're going to be placing sparks in the Salvation server. But you know what? I have technically already completed this on accident, I believe. Let's look at this. So as long as I don't lose this neural hub, I have a neural hub adjacent to a partition in Salvation. So yeah, technically I've already completed the silver objective. Wow, I promise you I did not look at that before. I was literally just thinking about these two sparks over here. So okay, well, that's good. I mean, the nice thing about that is we can then just focus on managing the sparks and trying to set ourselves up for the gold objective. And here's the thing. Now we're going to roll each round 2 times to place sparks. And remember that first turn, we didn't place any sparks, so I only placed 2 sparks last round. This time, we're going to place 6. Yeah, 6 sparks. So we're going to have to do a little bit more mitigation of that. Speaking of which, let's place them. So our first one will be in Salvation 5. If you look here, Salvation 5, there are no sparks adjacent to it, so it's not going to move. It's just going to stay there. For our second roll, we have Blue 5. That also has no sparks adjacent to it, so it'll just stay there. Wow. But now look at my awesome little data node train. We have 2 spots where if we don't get rid of those sparks or shift them off of there, they're going to delete our data nodes at the end of these 3 turns. I think I'm going to stop the video here. What I'd like you guys to do is take a look at my hand and let me know, what would you do at this point? Since our objective is essentially completed, as long as we keep that neural hub there, what should be our objective at this point? Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you at the next stop. Go Renegade.